Clan scholars believe that Artemis Orthea is the first child of Ventrue, and say that she once held sway over Sparta in the guise of its patron goddess. She burned with a desire to destroy her foes and acted decisively, but her headstrong hunger for conflict would prove her downfall at the hands of the Bruja of Carthage. The cultists of the Shattered Spear venerate this ancestor figure, hiding in the shadows of Clan Ventrue and conducting their worship in defiance of Camarilla dictates. Now the cult waxes in strength and gathers new adherents to its banner, drawn by the whispered gospel of Artemis's divine nature and the rediscovery of her torpid remains. You are a member of the Shattered Spear, a descendant of Orthea, and a believer in the sacred nature of your forebearer. Carrying the torch of the spear means that you are a warrior, and the cult expects you to fight against the Second Inquisition, the Sabbat, and any other group that threatens Kindred society. You are to revile passive indolence, but your peers and leaders laud your decisive action and willingness to spring into battle. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and another episode of Metaplot Monday, where we're going to be going over the lore sheets in the Forbidden Religions book for the time being. And right now we're going over the Spear of Orthia, which is a Ventrue clan-specific lore sheet. This is actually one of those descendant lore sheets, although it's not strictly put at that. But with this, you are a descendant of Artemis Orthea, or at least a member of the cult, so you probably believe that you're a member. That is actually kind of an interesting thing to put, though, because she is a fourth generation. Even if you do come from one of the various other Ventrue lines, there's a good chance that you still might be part of this one due to the fact that its founder was a fourth generation vampire who also claimed to be the goddess of Sparta, Artemis. And I really wish I had known about this before, because the Spear of Orthea, this cult, was actually known in earlier versions of Vampire the Masquerade. I believe, and I could very well be wrong, but to my knowledge, this was first brought up in the second edition revised clan book for Clan Ventrue. And to be completely honest, the clan book for Clan Ventrue is just something that I didn't really ever have the desire to go after, which is really ridiculous because there were so many amazing merits and flaws and storylines and plot hooks. It's a shame. The fact that these cults that they're bringing up are being all brought together in such easy to grasp areas. And when I say that, I understand that these books are not the cheapest thing in the world, but they're not bound together by clan anymore, which makes it more likely that you're going to end up getting something like this. We're not going out there and buying just Clan Book Ventrue so we can get a look at the Spear of Orthea. This is in the Forbidden Religions book, which is just plastered with so many amazing storylines, including this one. If I had known about this, I would have probably made my Ventrue Arthur Mason. I probably would have made him a member of this, because he actually had a lot of characteristics of this. Now, he was a hardcore Christian character who believed that he needed to do what he was doing for the good of all. He was so full of himself. Oh my God, the arrogance in that character. He seemed so humble, but truthfully, he believed he was fighting for God. So being a crusader in and of itself is just kind of a dangerous thing, especially when you're looking at a vampire with powers. But he did the kind of things that this cult did. He jumped headfirst in the battle. He did not think about his own personal safety when he was going. Thinking too much, planning too much was a hindrance of actually getting things done. And I walked out of so many ridiculous scenes as a player that I should not have. I remember once there was a bar that was infiltrated with Sabbat. It was full of Sabbat, and I didn't realize that it was a pack that was almost primarily Tzimisce. So my little Ventrue goes bursting in through the doors with a pump-action shotgun, and the entire pack goes horrid for him. And I walked in and out the other side. I tore him apart, and there's no reason why I should have been able to get away with what I did, except I was throwing fire that night. Like it was a LARP, so the rock paper scissors thing, but it was insane how much damage I was able to do and how well I was throwing that night. It was terrifying, but he would have fit so well into this group. Now, I'd like to get into this, shall we? So, investing one trait into the Spear of Orthia gets you Tip of the Spear. You are a member of the new wave of shattered spear adherents spreading through Clan Ventrue and bearing the tidings of Elena Andreas's groundbreaking discoveries. Once per session, when interacting with another Ventrue character, you may ask the storyteller whether the Ventrue will be receptive to your faith, tolerant of it, or will be opposed to it, should you reveal your allegiance to them. So, you can tell if another Ventrue is going to accept the fact that you worship Artemis. That's kind of interesting, considering the fact that there are so many royal-esque is the best word I can put about it. So many royal-esque cults out there, like the cult of Mithras and things like that. Like, there's a Loresheet out there that we already covered that talks about how you are a member of specific bloodlines of Clan Ventrue, that you belong to one of these various cults. And this is just yet again another one of those damn cults. And the fact that you're able to know whether or not you're talking to the right Ventrue, given a specific situation, is very important. And when you're dealing in a game when there's a lot of clan-heavy politics, this could be life-saving if you need to know whether or not you need to hide your allegiances. Investing 2 trait gets you Soldier's Code. You have embraced the liturgy of the spear with an ardent zeal. Choose one of the convictions of the spear. Once per story, you may use it to mitigate stains as if it was one of yours. So in other words, you are fighting on a code of honor, depending on which conviction of the spear you have chosen. Because in this book, when we get to the Spear of Orthia area, in it, I believe it's actually towards the very beginning, there is a list of convictions that you can take. You choose one of them on top of your standard 3, so you actually have 4 convictions. This, in my opinion, is a similar way as to being on, not completely on a path of enlightenment, but very, very close, due to the fact that you're warping your convictions to fit into this group. Now, we can go ahead and go over those right now. Alright, and the spear actually has 5 different convictions on here. Now, it does say that convictions held by the members of the cult draw from the iconic ideal of Spartan warriors, espousing valor in combat and adherence to the faith in Artemis Orthea. And they are: never falter in the face of battle. The cult's warriors enter battle willingly. Displays of cowardice are anathema. They lead from the front, refusing to allow others to enter danger on their behalf. Always seek to live, not to die. While seemingly contradictory to their boldness in entering combat, the spear sees this tenet as a simple matter. Even in combat, fight to live, for you will fight with greater ferocity than those who do not care if they fall. All warriors may fall, but only those who sought life after the blood and pain to battle may know they fought with valor. Never deny the words of the voice. The voice speaks the words of Artemis Orthea. When she speaks, those words are to be followed. To deny her words is to dishonor yourself in the eyes of the cult and its god. Do not drink of the heart's blood. The voice has decreed that diablerie is the greatest of sins among civilized kindred. Those who drink of the heart's blood and consume the soul of another are enemies to the spear, to be destroyed. Never suffer the denizens of hell, nor those who consort with them. As Orthea fell in combat against the followers of hell, so should the spear fight them with her ferocity. Diabolists and demon worshippers are the greatest of the spear's enemies, and to consort with them or their masters is to betray the purpose of one's blood. Now that makes a lot of sense due to the fact that Artemis Orthea actually fell in the first wave of combat against Carthage, where the Bruja and the Baali were running a human utopia. Not really. They were being vampires, they were being monsters, they were doing what vampires and monsters do. They were devouring humans. Now, a lot of these humans were also willing sacrifices, or they were providing willing sacrifices, depending on who you ask. But the common knowledge is that these Bruja and Baali were, in fact, infernal, and they had turned the entire area of Carthage into a corrupt, disturbing, monstrous place. Investing 3 traits into this lore sheet gets you enduring faith. You know one or more of the Ventrue in the region are secretly followers of Orthea. If you can contact them and enlist their aid, they will provide you with 4 dots of either allies or Mala. So you know other cult members. That's good. That's very, very good. Now, depending on your power level and what you're actually looking for, having either a Mala or an ally could come in very, very big, especially when you're talking about high clans. And that's something that a lot of games I see tend to veer away from. And I don't know if it's just because it's a storyline that storytellers find boring, or they don't think their players are going to be interested, or if people are trying to displace the way that humans act around each other of certain pedigrees of people, which is a load of bull. But in Vampire, I find it to be a very interesting story hook. The ability to go, oh, this clan is important because the Ventrue are always going to be on that top rung. They have since the Dark Ages. They're going to be always in charge because the majority of the majority of the princes are, in fact, Ventrue. Not to mention, we now have a Justicar for life in Lucindy. So, high clans can get things done. Not always good things, but they can get things done. Investing 4 traits gets you Witness to Orthea. You went down beneath Lisbon with Elena, and you saw the revelation of Orthea with your own undead eyes. You speak with the conviction of the voice herself, and your testimony stirs those of Ventrue blood. Once per scene, after rolling the die to convince one or more Ventrue of your beliefs, exhort them to violence, or lead them in battle. You may turn all 1s rolled into 10s. 1s to 10s is pretty good. Going from bestial failures to messy criticals is not a laughing matter. That's just straight out. And this is when you're trying to interact with Ventrue, trying to stir them up, trying to change their convictions. And that could very well be a thing. That could be very well a thing that changes what the spear can actually accomplish in your game. Somebody with this ability. This is an individual who was there when they found the torpid body of Artemis. Someone who now speaks with the same conviction as Elena, the voice. The vampire archaeologist who dug up the fourth generation Ventrue. That's pretty intense. Investing 5 traits gets you Splinter of the Spear. You possess a splinter of the Spear of Orthia itself. This fragment of such a legendary weapon doubtlessly possesses great power. It is a relic of great importance. As long as you have it about your person, channeling the power of Artemis Orthea grants you 2 automatic successes on melee rolls when wielding spears or other piercing weapons, including stakes. However, committing an act of cowardice, such as retreating before a foe or falling to terror frenzy, is an insult to its legacy. You suffer 1 point of aggravated willpower damage should such happen. Furthermore, actually losing the splinter would be an utter disaster for you and for the Shattered Spear. So, this is almost like having the Cup of Christ. This is like having the Spear of Destiny. This is an actual shard of Artemis's battle spear that she took into Carthage. You had to have pulled some major boons to get a hold of this. Maybe Matthew Castle was having an auction in your area. Who knows? Splintered Spear is a very interesting thing, especially since you can use it with stakes. Having those extra 2 automatic successes in melee combat with piercing weapons, that's rather useful. That's very, very useful. And it doesn't say that you have to fight with it. This is something that you would keep on yourself. Like, you wear a small shard as a pendant or something like that. That's something that you would that's not something that you could probably fight with yourself. It's probably so old and damaged at that point that it would just shatter to dust if you tried. That is a very interesting thing, though. Like, the whole concept of gaining the spear, a splinter of the spear, could actually be a plot line in and of itself. I always love looking at these lore sheets and marking down like how they could actually become plot lines in and of themselves. It's just a very interesting concept. You run out of ideas, take a look at the lore sheet, see if there's anything that you can use for a plot line. It is always helpful to have those little boosts of inspiration provided to you by the World of Darkness themselves. Well, that there is in fact the Spear of Orthia, which is a Ventrue cult that is all based around a 4th generation who claimed to be the goddess of Sparta. She made her home inside the goddess's temple. She received blood sacrifices to her so that she could feed. Her child went on to carry on her legacy. Like, this is, if you guys have not actually looked into Orthea, Artemis Orthea, I highly suggest doing so. She's such an interesting character, and I'm not sure if the Primogen has done a video on her yet or not. But if not, he needs to, because I love the way he does that whole presenting of an individual character. I'm considering doing something like that myself in the future, but I don't want to step on his toes. That seems to be his thing, and I like what he's doing. So, Orthea, Artemis. These are Ventrue who are believing that they're descended from a god. Who would have thought that was a thing? Ventrue, I think the Ventrue bane of arrogance, or the compulsion of arrogance, really does bring that whole deification thing to the full. I really, really do. Because if you look at it, there's so many Ventrue out there who just claim to be gods in one way or another. Mithras and Artemis are just 2 really good examples. Ventrue are the only ones who do that. Even Gangrel are known to do that. Look at Odin the All-High, who is considered I believe, the 4th generation Gangrel, who's in torpor at the moment. So, I think that this is just a very interesting lore sheet altogether, and I can see where I really wish I had known about it. I mean, I know I keep going back to that, but I really wish that when I had played Mason as a player character that I could have used this as a base, as a starting base. Because I think those kind of things would really have come up. I think primarily the Soldier's Code, I think would have helped him out a lot, but unfortunately that was not a thing. So I have to relive my glory days through my game that I'm running instead of game that I get to play in. But I am Voivode Maquette, and this is Metaplot Monday, where we've just gone through yet another lore sheet in the Forbidden Religions book. I'm very glad to be back. That vacation took a lot out of me, and I can finally relax now that I'm back at work. So, I will see you next time in the next video. Have a good evening.